That seems like a good-looking waveform.
Well, this is my first experience in podcast waves, but that looks good to me.
Yeah, I think we can go from here.
All right, let's podcast.
I have a text document that I created.
Okay.
But I don't really know...
So this is just for our purposes. This isn't to be released, or is because we didn't do an intro.
I think it's
because we didn't make an introduction, which is a bad start for podcasts.
Well, we have to come up with the introduction.
Well, that's the point of this podcast.
Yeah, well, that's the point of every episode, right? Because
Oh,
isn't the point of this to be that we're figuring out what it's about every episode?
I thought this episode is figuring out what all the episodes in the first season are about.
But the premise is that, like the theme, if you will, is that each episode we're figuring out what the podcast will be about.
Like the podcast at the time.
Yeah.
So like this one is figuring out.
This one is the test episode. It's,
Okay.
it's figuring it out.
It's figuring. Okay.
Yeah.
That could be the title.
But say we did because the jumping off idea was colors, right?
Yeah.
And so,
which I still think is a great idea.
Which I think is a good first step idea. Second up.
But so we're trying to figure out today what the next podcast is about, or is that what we figure out in the next?
Well, I think
podcast?
there's some concrete details to sort out, starting with how many concrete details we need to sort out.
I think we start the podcast, like the next one, with like a 10-minute or 5-minute conversation about what that podcast will be about.
And then we jump off.
And then it goes into the intro.
Do we have the same intro every episode?
I don't know.
Oh. Are we set on the title?
Figuring it out.
Is that the title?
I like it.
Figuring it out is a good one. I like figuring it out.
No, I don't know.
We should brainstorm some titles right now.
The listeners would like that.
All of our 2 listeners right
Both
now.
of our listeners.
Yeah.
Catherine and probably my mom.
Oh, I was just talking about you and me.
Oh. I'm not going to listen to it.
I'm not going to listen to it once it's published.
No, I don't want to hear myself.
But I'm listening to it right now.
In any event, let's think of titles.
When I was showering this morning, I thought about...
That's a bad title.
When I was showering?
Yeah.
I think that could be a great podcast.
Would it take place while you're showering?
I think there's a shower in the
Let's
background.
move past the shower conversation and just figure out...
What about just the podcast?
How about what's a podcast?
What? Yeah. But that's kind of like... It feels like we're exploring more philosophical questions about what a podcast is.
That seems like it's going to be on NPR or the next season of Serial.
Yeah. But it's not a narrative podcast.
But one of the podcasts should be a narrative podcast.
Yeah.
Stay tuned.
Yeah. A little bit of foreshadowing. And the other title that was My Brother from Another Mother, or Brothers from Another Mother.
Brothers from different mothers?
But that doesn't have the same...
It makes people... That
Brothers from different mothers doesn't have the same assonance that...
Yeah, but it also would really confuse people.
Yeah, I would...
If you see a podcast called Brothers from Other Mothers,
yeah,
you're not going to think it's a meta podcast about podcasts.
That's true. The title doesn't really relate to the theme.
Which it doesn't really
I like figuring it out. I think as a
figuring it out? Figuring it out.
Figuring it out?
I like that one. But that also makes no sense.
Well, it's confusing.
Yeah.
Almost deliberately confusing.
That's a good one. Deliberately confusing.
When I told Ed about this idea that we had,
yeah,
he said that it was a podcast about nothing.
Yeah, but that's too derivative.
It's not plugged in.
Oh. Yeah, but calling it a podcast about nothing makes people think it's about Seinfeld.
Yeah.
Which one episode should be, because I've been watching Seinfeld.
Yeah, but you're always watching Seinfeld.
Never
I
mind.
like the idea of doing, because they have those... There are podcasts out there that are just dedicated to one show.
Yeah, well, there's that one podcast, that James Bonding, where they just talk about James Bond over and over again.
Yeah, but there's other one. There's one of the... There was one that was just about that show for smart people.
Frasier?
Frasier. You instantly got there.
Oh yeah.
From show for smart people.
Well, you know,
So there's those ideas of the ones. It's like episode by episode. So I like parodying that with the Seinfeld.
That's a funny idea, even if it was just me who has seen every episode multiple times and you unwillingly joining the conversation.
Yeah, because I have seen maybe 5 episodes of Seinfeld.
But that would require me to do a lot of heavy lifting, and I'm not into that.
Well, so that brings me to the next point: is how So there's potential categories, right?
Is those the categories?
Yeah. Did you like how I said I made a text document and there's like six words?
Yeah, it's technically a text document.
It is technically a text.
How
document.
nuanced is that a title? Because I quite like How Nuanced as a title.
That was not a title, but that could be a title.
Okay, what is the text document?
I don't remember what I meant by How Nuanced. The first thing was figuring out the title, which I don't think we still haven't really done.
Let's just call it TBD.
TBD. That's To Be Determined is a great name.
Okay. Did you jot that down?
Okay, I'll jot it down. The other one was, is our intro the same every time?
No.
Or is it different based on what the episode's
I like the idea that the intro, after the sponsorships, of course, from various sponsors.
Yeah,
the Persian.
Naturally, we'll have a lot of sponsors.
Yeah, the Persian man from one. The Bonton Meat Market.
Yeah, if there's anybody's opinion who people care about most, I think it's two very average.
Yeah.
To below average.
Yeah, below average is a better start.
White male millennials.
Yeah, I think the intro should be, like I said, it starts with like our 5-minute discussion about what the episode is going to be, and then like it falls into a separate intro that fits that theme. So
the episode just jumps in.
It just starts
in media res.
It goes in
of
cold,
us talking about
hard, fast.
Cold, hard, fast about what the podcast is about.
Maybe it does like the dream sequence music.
Do it again?
No.
No, do it again.
No.
Do the dream sequence again. That's good. I'm gonna splice that into every episode.
Thought so. Because then, like, for example, if we do a podcast about, like we said, Seinfeld, we would start with us talking about it, and then we'd have like this generic TV theme intro. And then if we did a narrative podcast, it would sound overly self-serious and heavy-handed.
Yeah. We're essentially parodying
every podcast.
And also, I feel like we can come up with some really out there topics, like colors. I
liked because you can think of topics off of the colors you pick. Colors part 1, red.
Yeah.
Steak.
So the whole structure
the solar
system. Kind of like the color wheel.
Yeah, Roy G. Biv.
That's
the name of the Colors podcast, Roy G. Biv.
Yeah, so then, do we want these specific categories to work through every episode? What's the title of this podcast? What's the intro? What kind of...
No, that's...
Or is that too...
That's getting to...
Is that too nuanced?
That's how nuanced would be about.
Yeah, like how in depth are we going to go with?
No, it would...
It's less about analyzing the podcast and more about pretending to do it.
So this is just a test to figuring things out.
Yeah, and it's also kind of a tech test.
The next session would be more getting into the nuts and bolts of each. Like, if we make like a season of like 7.
7?
4.
That's this 4? It got shorter?
13? It's more than 7 and more than 4.
Okay, 13.
13.
A nice, odd, unlucky number.
Yeah, and so then the first pod is like 0.
This one is 0.
No, this one is -1.
Oh.
Then it goes to pod 0, where we have the 13 topics. Actually, pod -1 should think of the 13.
Oh, I like that. So we
How
start
about
off...
this podcast figures out the 13 topics.
Okay.
Podcast 1. Podcast 0.
But then I would make this podcast 0 for this season.
This is podcast -1. So then we think of the 13 things, the 13 podcast parody ideas.
In this episode?
Episode.
Okay.
And then in the next episode, we think of the titles. Oh, no, let's just do it all.
No, I think we should do the episodes, one episode about each topic, though.
Yeah, but in what episode do we think of the themes and titles for those podcasts? Is that this episode?
I think we can, if we wanted to do...
Because this is going to be a long episode.
If we wanted to do a preview, we could come up with a theme.
Oh, I like that. And then like a 5-minute teaser, like the day before the pod comes out. Is that what you're thinking? Like, how did this get made?
No, not like that.
Oh, I like that idea.
I mean, like, if we wanted to come up with the themes right now, and then... But I think each episode should be about... Like, it should be as though the podcast was about that thing, right?
From beginning to end, like no.
Well, we can do the. I mean,
I like the
we can pull the curtain back and do like a little intro on it if you want, or comment on figuring it out.
Okay, I can maybe go at the end. No, should go at the start. No.
It's kind of like we're recording the first episode of a podcast over and over again.
What could go wrong?
Yeah, what could go wrong is another potential title.
That's the title of a sex tape for sure.
It's kind of depressing to think about recording the first episode over and over again. Because
like
that's usually the worst episode of any podcast is the first one.
That's good. Because it can only get worse.
So it can only get worse.
We got a lot of good titles just by coincidence. It can only get worse.
It can only get worse. It's also, yeah. Yeah, I thought we were going to do, like, say this is episode -1.
Okay.
No, this should be episode 0, I think.
I agree.
Episode 1 is the color episode.
Sort in colors for episode 1?
Sure, why not?
Okay.
So then we'll have...
Jot that down, because we need a list. I think we're going to remember 13 words.
I'm going to get a notepad, because I don't want to just oppress people with the sound of typing.
Our voices are just...
Our voices are already terrible enough that I don't want to layer typing on top of it. So instead I'll layer the sounds of pages flipping and the scratching pen.
So episode 1. Oh, it got louder. I think you cleared your throat too loud. You didn't hit the cough button.
That's going to be horrible for people to listen to, hey?
Well, mine's smaller than yours.
You gotta really get aggressive with it, you know?
I think because you're sitting closer to the mic.
I think also because I'm sitting closer.
In any event, episode 1, colors. It's gonna be that's a rough start.
I gotta do. No, that's a. But we should figure out. Are we figuring out what the podcast is about every episode in relation to the theme, or are we just doing an episode about the theme?
Should be about the theme.
Okay.
Well, maybe not.
Or are we working through?
It could.
I think it should just be about the theme. The theme is like a jumping off point for...
And then we just talk about
whatever,
colors for half hour.
Yeah, for whatever. Whenever we say colors, all I can think about is a podcast about colors offensive to colorblind people?
No, because colorblind people don't see black and white. But we gotta save this for the colors pod.
Okay, yeah, we'll hold off for the colors pod.
The only thing that comes to mind when I think of colors is the restaurant in American Psycho crayons.
That's a deep cut. That's a hard thing to think about.
Yeah, well, I just watched a really shitty movie with Justin Theroux in it last night, and he's an American Psycho.
Justin Theroux?
Yeah, he's an American Psycho.
Who does he play in American Psycho?
He plays a vice president.
In American Psycho?
Not the vice president, a vice president of that company.
Oh.
The joke is they're all vice presidents.
Which scene is he in?
He's in several. He's the guy that says, "Is that a gram?" and the business currency.
Is that a gram?
Yeah, that's what he.
Oh shit! Is that a gram?
That's him. We should do a movie.
We occasionally box at the Harvard Club.
We should do a movie podcast.
We'll do an episode about movies.
But what? Movies?
Well, one of the episodes of this can be about movies.
I feel like even colors can be about movies because we're talking about American Psycho.
I think naturally we're going to run back to movies every time we...
That's true. We should make one that is exclusively not movie-based. No, that's too much work.
No, I think...
That's too hard.
I think the general idea is the theme is like the jumping off point.
Yeah, yeah.
And we should try and relate it back to the theme, but we don't have to be limited by the cage of thematics. You're really transfixed by that.
I really like this thing.
By that non-audio...
yeah, this is not a visual medium, but
no, you're staring at a flashing light cube.
Well, who has a flashing light cube?
It's a hypno cube.
It really is.
For any of the 3 people who might be listening who are interested in Googling it.
You think we're going to have a listener?
I think we'll pull in...
Upwards of 10.
I don't know. I think the amount of people who are interested in listening to speculations about how many listeners we're going to get is very high.
I think we'll get...
I don't think it's very high at all.
I think we'll get at least 4 Shermacks and Pity listen to us.
I think we'll get more Pity listens than that. I like to think that we get more...
Pity is a very underrated emotion.
Do you think so?
That's from Seinfeld.
Oh.
So what should episode...
That's a great preview for how that Seinfeld episode would potentially go.
Every episode is a Seinfeld episode.
Yeah, you should try and work in a Seinfeld quote every episode.
It has to be organic. I can't be told to do this thing. No, I'm not going to say.
Yeah, true. We have to let the podcast go organically.
Then we'll reach critical mass and become famous.
Like a child full of potential that we'll just ruin with our bad parenting. Are people born with potential?
Jot that down for episode 2.
Just potential?
Potential. Episode 2, potential. Catherine was here. Our sister.
No, you just ruined the whole facade.
Oh, when Catherine was here, a stranger...
No, it's too late.
She was saying, what percent... Did she ask you this? What percentage of life is luck?
Yeah, she went into we had a big conversation about it.
Yeah. She didn't care for my answer.
Her opinion was that it was 5%... It was 95% luck and 5% your own control.
Yeah.
What was your answer?
The question is illogical. It can't be answered. You can be really lucky But like, because her a big part of it was like where you're born is really lucky.
Yeah.
And what gender you are and what skin color you are.
Yeah.
You could be a straight white male living in, I don't know, Toronto in a middle class family.
Toronto.
And just be super lazy.
Yeah, that's what I was arguing with her.
Yeah, but you could similarly be.
But I don't think it's an illogical question.
I think their luck and like hard work are very intertwined.
Oh no, I think you're.
Because if you're born in unlucky circumstances, you can work yourself out.
Yeah, I agree.
And if you're lazy, born in good circumstances, you're just. I don't know what I'm trying to say. I said it real good the other day.
I think there's an element. My response was that I can't remember what the percentages I gave were. Something like 15% luck and I'm gonna reveal 75%. I think 75% heart, like your own will.
But you get lucky based on how hard you work to some degree.
And then
if you're lazy and you're not working hard, you're not going to be put in a position where you might meet people or see things.
Well, yeah, if you do things, you make opportunities for yourself.
Yeah, but you can just say that's lucky as well. Like, oh, lucky you were at this networking event where you met this person and gave you their business card, or you emailed and you got this great job.
But there are so many things.
But you worked. But you
did yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it can be attributed to luck.
No, I don't agree that when she said it was 95% luck. I think there's a certain amount of randomness for sure.
Like this cue.
Like this crazy hypno cue. Yeah, and then you're just essentially fighting back against.
Should we save this for the luck pod?
Are we doing a luck episode?
I think it goes too close to potential.
No, I think potential and luck could be.
Okay, put luck down.
We'll do a luck pod.
We might want to get 14.
Are we just gonna go until we think of 13 titles?
I'm not doing a two-parter.
I was thinking half an hour is kind of an idea.
Half an hour to 45.
Yeah.
No more than 45. Right, listeners? Do you like this dead air? Episode 4.
Can we do an episode that's just dead air?
That happened. There's I was reading about this in a book this year. There's I forget, it's some like religious thing. I think it's Quakers or someone like that.
Quakers have a podcast?
Yes. Maybe not Quakers, some religion.
Is it Quakers or is it Quaker Oats?
Probably both have a podcast at some area of...
You think what is more ridiculous, that Quakers or Quaker Oats would have a podcast?
Well, based on what to tell you, it's Quakers because their podcast was to bring people into their sermons, but they don't speak unless they feel the presence of God in them. The podcast was a half hour of silence because no one felt the presence to speak.
No.
Yes.
Is that a Quaker thing?
It might not be Quaker, but I think it was Quaker. So that's the thing that they had just dead air, and several people listened to it, so we have hope. Because that's a very gimmicky podcast, by accident.
So is this a continually
It ran once.
So there's just one episode?
It was one episode, it was dead
silence. Yeah. So they just kind of wanted to drop this sort of backhand slap across the internet.
No, they wanted to bring people into their religious experience, but they didn't feel religious that day, I guess.
I think that you couldn't think of a worse way to try and recruit somebody than not doing anything.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, but Quaker Oats probably has a podcast.
I don't think they do.
Let's check it out. Let's check it out, folks.
I think that it's crazier for Quaker Oats, a cereal brand, an oatmeal brand, to have a podcast.
There are 3 podcasts that come up when I search Quaker. Quaker Faith and Podcast.
Is that the one with the just dead air episode?
This one's called Quaker Love Mondays FM with George and Larry Lamb. We probably have to edit this out because I don't think we can plug other pods.
Well, we can. We're not trash talking them. We're just.
Oh, I got rid of it. That's Quacker.
We're just pod plugging.
Quaker, and then there's Quaker Speak Podcast.
Also, nobody's going to listen to this episode.
That's fair. So we got to think of 10 more of these things?
Are we going to do, are we set on this episode 0 concept every season of introducing the...
I think it's a fun little thing to have an episode
a little preview
of the episodes.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a Bim Bam where they think of the theme of the year.
Okay, so let's just
fireball.
Yeah, fireball off
Alphabet. Episode 4, Alphabet.
Alphabet. Okay, episode 5, Liquid.
I like this.
Yeah.
Episode 6, forests, plural.
Can we do regions?
What do you mean?
What's the word for nature regions?
Ecosystems?
Ecosystems.
Throw it in ecosystem.
I feel like forest is a little bit too...
Do you think we're not going to talk about Forrest Gump when we do the forest pod?
Let's do... You know what? Forests. Sorry that I tried to steamroll forests.
We could do steamrollers.
Steam.
Just steam. Just steam. This is just steam.
This is quickly flying off the rails to make a steam joke.
Mm-hmm. Well, how
to
many
make
do we
it
have?
really bad.
How many do we have?
5, 6. We have 7 currently.
Okay, so we need 6 more.
Yeah.
I want to do a narrative
Should,
podcast just for but that's really opposite of what this whole thing is. I want to do a parody of a narrative podcast.
Is it just going to be one episode of a narrative podcast?
Yeah, but the episode will be telling a story of something that's really heavy-handed. But it sounds like it's a different podcast altogether.
Yeah.
Because a parody this isn't parodying podcasts.
We're just
You're
right.
Thinking
We're just
of random
using
subjects to talk
random
about.
subjects.
So maybe when we become big and famous, we can put this in our back pocket and we can do
the narrative parody.
Just parody podcasts. We can just parody every podcast. We're already kind of parodying.
I think we're Well, yeah. No, are we parodying?
Well, no, just by nature of our parentage.
Yeah.
So what do we got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
They don't have a copyright on
parents.
Brother podcasts.
Do they? They say TM an awful lot.
They do a lot of verbal TMs.
How about superheroes? No, superpowers. Because then we can just ruin superpowers for a half hour.
Superpowers. I think we need to get the Fast and Furious episode out of the way as early as possible.
That's not... Yeah, I agree. Yeah, put Fast and Furious down just because... We should just do a Fast and Furious pod.
How many episodes do you think we could do of a Fast and Furious pod?
We could do 1 per movie, for sure. Easily.
Yeah.
But then there could be sub-pods, sub-episodes talking about the overall universe.
I think 1 per movie is the natural
Well, 1 per movie would be
structure.
long. It'd be like an hour.
Yeah.
Let's put a little star next to Fast and Furious.
I'm just going to put Fast and, because I'm too lazy to write Furious.
We're so furious.
I thought of a sequel to the how many chicken wings can you eat question.
Okay.
How many Timbits do you think you could eat?
More than I could eat chicken wings. No, I couldn't. I could probably eat 50.
50 Timbits?
Yeah, I could eat 50.
You think so?
Which flavor?
Assorted.
50.
Do you get a specific flavor of Timbits when you go to Tim Hortons?
I pick a specific Timbit out of the Timbit box.
But you don't ask for...
No, when I ask for Timbits, I say give me 50 assorted Timbits.
Because the only person who asks for specific Timbit selection is a lunatic, right?
Or our dad. Because when I get Timbits for a work thing, I always eat the plain Timbits. I love plain Tim Hortons donuts more than any other donut I've ever had.
Plain glazed or plain?
No, plain.
Like old-fashioned plain?
Old-fashioned plain donut is the best donut. From Tim Hortons, I don't care about Jelly Mater. I don't care about that dumb new place downtown.
If I can rant for a second, if you'll allow me to rant, hate is a strong word. I don't really like postmodern donuts.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
I don't want to get a lemon meringue pie.
I like the classic flavors of donut.
Chocolate dip.
If you have to eat it with a fork, I think you're doing donuts wrong.
Was that a low-key Seinfeld riff?
No, but did I make an accidental Seinfeld reference?
Accidental Seinfeld.
Okay.
There's an episode of Seinfeld where they see people eating candy bars with a fork and knife.
Do you ever eat something with a fork and knife just to see what it would...
No, never.
Something that you wouldn't normally eat.
Why would I do that? There was a guy I went to high school with, and I went to his house, and we were eating chicken wings, and he ate it with a fork and knife. And I felt like I had to follow...
He ate them with a fork and knife?
Yeah, so I felt like I had to follow suit, and I ate them with the fork and knife.
How was he eating them with a fork and knife?
Cutting off the part of the flat that's on the other side of the bone, and tearing apart... It was just a nightmare.
Wow. Did that guy grow up to become a criminal, or...
No, he works for the government, I think.
So he did?
Yeah, well, he's from Calgary.
Oh, he's from Calgary.
And he moved to Thunder Bay.
And we're just absolutely trash-talking him right now.
If he hears this, he'll know exactly who he is.
Right, because there's only a select few perverts on the planet who eat chicken wings with a fork and knife.
He won't remember that, I'm sure, but he had a cat named Morris.
Wow, that's
so that he'll remember.
That's a direct call-out.
Now he'll know. Now he'll know. How many do we have?
We have 10.
Okay,
we need 3 more.
We just put food down. That's a good one.
Food is already one of them.
I already recommended. I was talking to someone at work yesterday to go to Great Taste Chinese.
Oh, I love that restaurant.
Yeah.
It's good.
Sponsorship, please.
If Great Taste wants to sponsor with just
I was thinking
a monthly free dim sum meal.
Okay. I like watching the Dead Air Bar because it makes me feel self-conscious. You know, on one of the podcast apps I have, it gets rid of the silence.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Of what silence?
I don't know. If the producer is stupid.
Does it auto edit the podcast for you?
Yeah. How about kicking? Put kicking as a podcast.
Kicking?
Yeah, why not?
Okay.
We're really grasping here. We can't think of 13 random words. How about family dinners?
Specifically family dinners?
That'll
if we're doing a family dinner episode and we move out of the realm of eating, do we have to instantly stop?
The podcast is over.
The podcast ends. We'll do a family dinner episode and the podcast ends the minute we talk about something not dinner related.
It'll be a quick pod. What is something that Dana likes that we ordinarily wouldn't talk about?
Well, there are a lot of serious topics we could
We should do a serious one, but just put serious.
Just
put serious stuff.
It's not going to be serious.
We'll probably talk about serious radio.
I was just going to make that joke.
Tough break. The comedic
You
legend.
bastard.
I watched that show Barry, the Bill Hader show.
Is that the one where he's an assassin or something?
It was really good. We finished the series.
Yeah, he's a talented guy.
How about talented guys? No.
How about
sexist.
just talent?
Sexist. Talent.
Talent is too close to potential.
Yeah. Is it? Stay tuned. We're the potential pod.
I'm going to put a /talent next to potential.
What do we have, 12?
We have 12, so we need... What's the coup de grace?
What's something that you could talk about forever? That's Fast and Furious. Put Fast and Furious down at the bottom and replace it with something else.
I'll do Straw and Arrow. I could talk about a lot of... Do you think there's something that you couldn't talk about for more than 5 minutes?
There's several things I couldn't talk about for more than 5 minutes. That's why I don't talk.
Because of lack of knowledge?
Almost everything I don't talk about is because I don't have knowledge.
Oh. But you're a knowledgeable person.
That depends.
Could you talk about blankets for 5 minutes?
Easily. But that's not hard. A 5-year-old could do that.
So that's what I'm saying. I think anybody could talk about anything for 5 minutes.
Blankets. Make a pod. Put it down. 13.
Okay, blankets. Okay, so to run through the list, I guess we're doing a 13. We're doing basically a 1 a month plus 1 extra.
Yeah, I guess we should have thought of that better. Can we knock one out to make 12?
I think if we're going to eliminate... Well, let's go through the list and we'll pick one to eliminate.
Oh, that's the theme of this podcast. Elimination.
Elimination. This is the elimination episode. Colors. Potential /talent. Luck.
Isn't that the same? Stay tuned.
We could just throw that... Well, okay, let's keep going through. We could just throw that onto the...
And then we gotta
we would solve our problem immediately.
Yeah. But it would derail this little bit.
You did instantly derail my bit.
Okay.
But it wasn't that funny, so I'll just stop.
Continue.
I think it wasn't that funny. I'll continue. Alphabet. Liquids. Forests.
I like forest. I think that's going to be a good one.
Steam.
Oh, that'll be fun.
Is steam too close to liquids?
Stay tuned. That's my answer to everything.
Superpowers.
I like that one a lot.
Blankets.
I like that one a little less.
Food.
That's going to factor into every episode.
It is going to factor.
If we
this will be a
eliminate...
food-specific episode.
Which food? Wait, what?
This will be a food-specific episode.
So as soon as we stop talking about food, podcast over?
Yeah.
Okay.
As soon as we stop talking...
Button.
Wouldn't it be funny if it just ended right there?
We could end it right there.
But I'm still going through the list, so unfortunately
Yeah.
we can't, because I have to drag out this terrible bit till it's dead in the ground.
Yeah.
Kicking.
That's my least favorite.
Really? I think that kicking has a lot of potential. /talent /luck.
See, from kicking, I go right to Kick Puncher, to Community, the TV show, to Troy and Abed, to Childish Gambino.
Oh, kicking takes me more in the kung fu direction. It goes.
Save it. Save it for the pod.
Okay. But first, I gotta ask: did you see that they're making a? Did you see the trailer for a movie? It's made by the same people who made the Ip Man movies.
Is this the one with Batista?
It has Batista in it.
No, I didn't watch the trailer because I don't want to see Batista in a movie about kung fu.
It's kind of like. Did you watch Did you watch Ip Man 3?
No.
It had Mike Tyson in it. And after kicking comes serious.
That's a serious pod.
And then finally, we'll close it out with a nice little
9 episodes.
After dinner aperitif of Fast and Furious.
I don't know about that. Because Fast and Furious, we could do an episode on every movie.
Well, I think we can revisit Fast and Furious.
That one I'm the most excited for, so let's save that for the new year.
The new year?
Well, because if we have that many, if we have one a month.
Well, we're going to cut one right now, aren't we?
Well, yeah, let's cut.
Or are we just going to smash luck into the potential
Put luck
talent?
into the potential one, and then cut kicking for sharing.
You want to cut kicking?
Make it sharing.
I think we should cut blankets if we're going to cut anything.
Oh, no, blankets has much more than kicking.
Kicking is so good.
Yeah, but it's also, I stole it from Always Sunny.
Oh, okay.
So I thought it's not
now we got to cut it, you filthy plagiarist.
So make it
So
sharing.
we're making it something way worse.
Sharing is worse than kicking?
Yeah. And I will die on this hill. Okay. Are we going to end it in like a major...
There should be an ending, like a... I don't know. Don't they usually end with like a ending and then like throw back to sponsors?
I don't really pay that much attention to the end of podcasts.
Once it gets to 5 minutes left, I usually turn it off.
What?
Well, it depends. If I'm listening to like a boring podcast, I don't care what.
When it's 5 minutes left, you turn it off.
Oh yeah, it's over. I don't want your sponsors.
But you wait for them to finish the actual podcast part.
Most of the time.
Most of the time.
Yeah. Some of them have a.
I cannot believe this whole time that you've been secretly a sociopath.
That's not that.
Stops listening.
There's one podcast I listen to. There's a 2.5 minute outro song. Not listen to that.
But that's at the end of the podcast. That's after the podcast is finished.
Okay, yeah, that's fair.
So you must actually let it finish. I'll cut off the ads at the end. I don't care about
of this one or in general.
No, if I'm listening, listening to a podcast and they say, "Okay, that's all, folks," and then something comes on.
Can we cut that out and make that the ending? Can you ISO things like that?
Yeah, I think so.
Can we have sound drops?
I've never. Yeah, I think that's doable.
Okay, so this is the end of episode 1 of figuring it out.
No, it's TBD.
Oh yeah, this is the end of
settling on
0.
What title are we settling on?
I don't know. We'll figure it out off the air.
Okay.
TBD.
Okay, that's all, folks.